All right, welcome back to Ageod's American Civil War II. I'm Charles Cummings, and today we're going to be looking at tutorial number 2 in this recruitment, production, and some other word in there series. Anyways, this is video 2 in the second tutorial series, and in the last turn we had just basically clicked on to Montgomery. The current capital of the Confederacy. And on this specific tutorial, we're going to take a look at basic resources, or in other words, a basic understanding of resources in the game. Okay, so the tutorial screen here, it shows initially 3 things: money, conscripts, and war supplies. And as you're playing the game, you're going to see these up here at the top. So we have $350,000. 175 conscript companies, and 85 tons of war supplies. Okay, what are each? So money in the game it represents both. You could think of it as cash, but it's also a bit more abstract. So it also represents things like production of weapons here, for example. So in Civil War II, they describe it as an abstraction of productive activity. I'm going to skip conscripts. So that is distinguishing between war supplies, which are really heavy materials, and those are used for cannon and ship. Now, if you see the numbers up here, whether it's $350,000 or 85 tons or 175 conscripts, what that's giving us is a limitation on how many regiments or brigades we can recruit, how many artillery batteries we can build, how many ships we can build, how much we can invest into railroad or riverine capacity, or whatever it may be. So in other words, as we are making decisions, we are restricted to the resources we have on hand. Of course, that makes sense. You can't spend money you don't have. You can't have men join the army that refuse to join. For each turn, as we go along, we're going to take in some money through different productivity. We'll have a little bit of conscripts join. In other words, people that basically just sign up every single month. But most of our men that will join the army are having through events, like through really big recruiting drives or forced mobilization. And same thing with war supplies. So there's probably basically a factory in Richmond that's producing war supplies every single turn. And then we combine different types of resources. We're going to be able to build things later on. What we're going to do is take a look at the city of Montgomery. So if you played Ageod's American Civil War, or the first game rather than this is Civil War II, you probably remember that the cities were a bit more abstract in what they had and what they produced. They basically produced ammo, war supplies, and recruits or conscripts. And of course, all that's here. Now, what's interesting about Civil War II is, of course, if you click on the town, it brings up, we have our militia, we have our Alabama State Guard here. But if I press the control button, and then I left click, it actually lists the specific structures in Montgomery. So it's, okay, so what is here? First we have the city, so it's producing some supply. The harbor is also producing some supply and a little bit of ammo. The capital is producing tiny amount of money, tiny amount of conscripts, and a little bit of supply. And then, of course, the Alabama plantations nearby are producing money and conscripts. So it becomes a bit more specific. Okay, so what basically historically what the city had is here, which makes sense. So Montgomery is the capital, so you have the capital. There are plantations nearby, or there are plantations in the state that pay tax. And of course, there is a harbor here on the river, and it's an actual city itself. So this is new to the game. Well, it's not new to the game, but it's new to the American Civil War series. So the second game, it's got a little more. I think for people that are really interested in, like, oh well, what is in Montgomery? Then you're gonna find this interesting. I can, of course, right-click and go back, and left-click again. So again, if you want to see specifically what's in the buildings in the city, you have to hit the Control button, hold it down, and then left-click. A couple other things I want to show you today is there are a couple other resources above. One is a railroad, and the other is Riverine or River Points. And you might remember that we actually used this not when we moved in the first tutorial series. We actually used River Points, not when we put our troops on boats, but when we used the Riverine button. I think we called it like commercial transport. So what this talks about is this is kind of like our base of what you can use every single turn, and then as long as you're using it, this gets reduced, and when your men get to where they need to be, it goes back up. It does slowly go down over time through wear and tear, and to counter that, we'll have to invest some resources, which we just talked about, to make sure that we maintain a railroad and river capacity that can move our men around. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you guys today is there is a foreign entry bar. So it was always it's always like this long lost hope in the Confederacy that Britain and/or France would intervene. It is possible in the game, and to get it to have Britain or France intervene, actually it's Britain and France, they both intervene at the same time, I believe. Yeah, you have to get to 100%. If you're the Confederacy, and of course if you're the Union, if you get to a negative 100% here, it says it removes all threat of foreign help from the Confederacy, so it basically ends. In Ageod's American Civil War, I've probably played at least 100 games, and I've had foreign intervention. I believe one time I was the Union and the opposing fighter was the Confederacy. So it's rare, as it should be. Getting France or Britain to intervene in a military manner was really a long shot, I think, by any stretch of the imagination. And so it should be, it should be difficult. Having said that, there's always the chance it could happen, as it was the chance historically as well. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. So we've kind of just gone over basic resources, and now we also know how to see what specific buildings are in a city. Out of curiosity, let's go to Richmond and do one more. So I'm going to Richmond, press the Control button, right click, left click, sorry. So it's Control button, left click. And there's quite a bit in Richmond. There are 8 structures, so you might, sometimes you need to scroll right. There's the city, again, the harbor. Tredegar Ironworks. This is what I was talking about. So you can see they produce 8 war supply. There's also a manufactory that produces money war supply. There are the barracks, which produce conscripts. The capital, of course. Fortifications, there's a fort, so there's all kinds of structures, also a depot, so it's really beautiful. These are great pictures, so they put a lot of effort into really researching, okay, what is in each city, and making sure that those resources are available to players. Okay, see you next time.